Kind of night that seemed to swallow sound, each breath turning into a ghostly echo in the crisp autumn air. Sarah had been walking for hours, hopelessly lost in the dense woods that bordered the edge of town. The trees loomed tall and skeletal above her, their barren branches clawing at the darkening sky. Her flashlight flickered, casting long shadows that danced menacingly along the narrow path. Her heart pounded with each step, the only sound in the deafening silence. She didn't remember how she had gotten here, only that she had been following a faint melodic whisper, a voice that seemed to call her name from somewhere deep within the forest. It was a voice she couldn't place but felt compelled to follow. "Sarah," the whisper came again, closer this time, threading through the trees like a serpent. It was sweet, almost gentle, and yet it sent chills racing down her spine. Sarah's steps quickened as she tried to find the source, her feet crunching on the dry leaves that covered the forest floor. She was no longer sure if she was moving toward the sound or away from it. As she pressed on, the whispering grew louder, more insistent. It was as if the forest itself was speaking to her, its breath rustling through the leaves, its voice echoing in her mind. Then just ahead she saw it, a faint glow like a lantern bobbing in the distance. Hope surged through her. Maybe it was another lost hiker, or someone who could help her find her way back. She moved towards the light, her steps hurried, almost frantic. But as she drew closer, Sarah's hope turned to horror. The glow wasn't coming from a lantern. It was coming from a figure, pale and translucent, its face hidden beneath a hood. The figure hovered above the ground, its mouth moving in a constant murmur, whispering her name over and over. "Sarah, come closer." She froze, rooted to the spot. The figure's eyes, dark voids set deep within his face, locked onto hers. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over her, and she took a step back, her breath catching in her throat. "Leave me alone!" she screamed, her voice shattering the silence. But the figure didn't stop. It floated closer, its whispering filling her ears, drowning out her thoughts. "Sarah, stay with us. Forever." Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet gave way. Sarah screamed as she fell, plummeting into darkness. She landed hard, the air knocked from her lungs. Pain shot through her body, and she struggled to get up, but her legs wouldn't move. She looked around, her eyes wide with terror. She was in a pit, its walls lined with twisted roots and bones. Faces stared back at her from the darkness, pale, ghostly faces, their eyes empty, their mouths whispering the same haunting words. "Stay with us! Stay with us!" Sarah's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into complete darkness. The whispering grew louder, wrapping around her like a shroud, suffocating her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The last thing she felt was the cold, clammy touch of a hand on her shoulder, pulling her deeper into the darkness. And then silence. The next morning, the townspeople found her flashlight near the edge of the woods, its beam pointing towards the trees. They searched for hours, but there was no sign of Sarah. The only sound that greeted them was the rustling of leaves, carried on the wind, and the faintest echo of a whisper that seemed to come from deep within the forest. "Stay with us. Forever."